Welcome to the League of Women Voters, Tacoma-Pierce County Candidate Forum for Auburn Council Positions 1 and 6. I am Lydia Zepeda, moderator for this forum. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Tacoma-Pierce County, I begin this forum with a land acknowledgement. The League of Women Voters acknowledges that we gather on the ancestral lands of the Coast Salish peoples, surrounded by their traditional waters in the shadow of Mount Tahoma. We actively seek inclusive and respectful partnerships that honor Indigenous cultures, histories, identities, and current realities. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization whose mission for the past 105 years has been to empower informed and active participation of citizens in government. Candidate forums are one of the many ways that we do this. Visit our website for more information, lwvtpc.org. That's lwvtpc.org. We invited all the candidates for the Auburn Council positions. Only the candidates for positions 1 and 6 chose to participate tonight. The candidates in ballot order for the Auburn Council position are Adib Al-Talal and Kate Baldwin. And for Auburn Council position 6 are Lisa M. Sturgis and Kobe Clark. The general election is November 4th. To register a vote or change your address, do so at votewa.gov. That's votewa.gov by Monday, October 27th. If you are already registered as a voter and your address is correct, your ballot will be mailed on October 17th. Your ballot must be postmarked or placed in a ballot drop box by 8 p.m. Tuesday, November 4th. This form is being recorded and will be posted on our website, lwvtpc.org. Questions have been prepared by the League of Women Voters of Tacoma-Pierce County. We invite live audience questions via text to the number right below me, 530-647-6482. Questions must be directed to all candidates and may be reworded or consolidated. Our timekeeper today is Terry Baker. Candidates, please stay on gallery view so you can see the timer. When your time is up, please stop. You may finish a short sentence if the timer goes off. Please do not talk unless it's your turn, and please mute yourself when not speaking. The audience is muted and cannot use the chat function. A reminder that civility is expected. I ask each of you to confirm that you agree to our ground rules, which, among other things, includes addressing the issues and not making personal comments. Please give me a thumbs up showing me that you agree to these ground rules. Thank you, all of you. I appreciate that. Each candidate has up to 2 minutes for an opening statement. After that, the order of the questions will rotate and each candidate will be asked the same question. At the end, each candidate will have a 1-minute closing statement. And the time for the questions will be 90 seconds. So we will start with the 2-minute statements for Auburn Council positions in ballot order. We'll start with position 1, and we'll start with Adib Al-Talal.
Perfect. Thank you. Good evening to all of you, and thanks to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. My name is Adib Al-Talal, and I'm running for Auburn City Council position 2. I am a civil and environmental engineer by trade, and I've spent most of my career um, designing and really managing the same utilities that keep our cities running and safe. And that includes anywhere from clean water, safe streets, and really reliable infrastructures. I currently serve as the water and sewer utilities engineer in local government at the city of Tukwila. I'm also on their equity and diversity committee, and I serve on the language access subcommittee there for the past couple of years. I'm also a union steward with Teamsters Local 763. Been there for quite a few years now, and I've been coaching high school soccer for the past 5 years in the Renton School District. First couple of years as assistant with the girls, and the last 3 years as head coach for the boys. And it's great. I my work and the hobbies have really taught me how to bring people together, whether it's the engineers, the kids, their parents, the neighbors, city leaders, and we all come together and solve those problems that really matter to us. So I'm running because Auburn deserves practical leadership that listens, and we need to plan ahead and make sure we put the community first every time and always. Thank you.
Thank you. Kate Baldwin.
Thank you, and thank you to our hosts for organizing this forum for us tonight. My name is Kate Baldwin, and I am your current Auburn City Council member for position 2, and I'm seeking the honor to run again and have your support for a second term. Now, many of you may know me, and for those of you who don't, a little bit of background is that I'm from Michigan originally, and where I grew up, I was in a household with my mom, who was working 2 jobs. And as a single mother, she was caring for myself, my brother, and our elderly great grandmother. So, in that experience, one of the things I heard all the time was, Kate, this is the last $20 I have until my next paycheck. And so, we knew what it was to have a tight budget in the household and sometimes what we had to do to make do. Now, with that experience, I know that hard work can solve a lot of problems, but it can't solve everything. And I believe the responsibility of government is to make sure that we have systems and resources that are putting working families front and center in our community. And so, in my time that I've spent on council, I've been doing my best to make sure that we do that. I want to make sure that we are including the right voices at the table, that we are spending your tax dollars wisely, that we are making sure that we keep and do as much as we can with our services, helping everyone from our youth to our senior residents. And I want to make sure that as I'm on council, that I am making decisions that take into account all the families in our community that might be on their last $20. I ran for office because I believe our community is stronger when we work together. I seek the opportunity to continue doing that work, and I ask for your vote this November. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, Lisa Sturgis, please.
All right, thank you so much. And I echo the comments of just thank you so much for putting this forum together, for all of us to come together and have our voters to have an opportunity to learn more about us as candidates, but also as humans. I am Lisa Sturgis. I am super honored and grateful to wake up every day to serve Auburn as your current position 6 council member, being appointed back in April. 7 years ago next month, my husband and I chose Auburn as our place to land, literally picking it on the map like that out of convenience. But now, 7 years next month, it is definitely our home, and we've got deep roots here, which we look forward to continuing to grow. My path has not been really very traditional. I was a teen mom and got married at 16. I dropped out of high school in my sophomore year and got my GED. I then thankfully got divorced at 21, but I had to file bankruptcy in order to put a roof over mine and my daughter's head. I then randomly started what would become my life's career and my life's purpose, which was a teller job at a bank with a 454 credit score. So fast forward 22 years. The reason I share that is not because, I want you to feel sorry for me or anything, but life has a lot of challenges, and it takes people, working really, really hard to push through those. And so 22 years later, my daughter's 30. She's working as a PA after graduating UW-Tacoma. I completed my Bachelor's of Science in Psychology in 2022. And my husband and I are celebrating our 20th wedding anniversary in 7 days. I moved up really quickly from a teller, pretty much through every position in banking. And then I spent the last 15 years in executive roles, leading large teams, anywhere from 78 team members in my first district to 475 in my last. It shows I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. Kobe Clark, please.
Hey everyone, my name's Kobe Clark. I'm a former real estate developer. I recently sold my construction company and decided to pursue a career in public policy. The focus of my campaign is creating housing, protecting civil rights and rule of law, and streamlining economic development. And I wanted to get involved in public policy because over the last, more than a decade now, I've built about 300 homes. They delivered to Washington State, and every year it got harder and harder and harder to build. And I think it needs to be easier to build. I think the key to unlocking affordable housing for everybody is to build more housing. And there's a lot of barriers to that right now. And so I'm focused on that. I'm also focused on protecting civil rights and hopefully getting politics and government to a place where we can be more collaborative. There seems to be a lot of one group taking from the other group in the air. Everyone's focused on how they're going to get their cut of the pie on both sides of the aisle, whether it's tax the rich or deport immigrants. It's just a lot of animosity, and I'd like to get government back to a place where we can focus on growing the pie, making it easy for people to build a life for themselves, and making it easy to bring their businesses to town and create wealth for themselves and everyone around them. So that's why I'm getting involved.
Thank you all. And I do apologize to the candidates, Adib Al-Talal and Kate Baldwin. I mislabeled you as position 1. Sorry, it's position 2. Forgive me. It's been a long day. Next, we come to the questions. Each candidate gets up to 90 seconds to answer each question. Again, live audience questions can be texted to the number 530-647-6482. The candidate order rotates. So for question number 1, we will start with Kate Baldwin, and then Lisa Sturgis, Kobe Clark, and then Adib. Okay, so the first question. According to the US Census, the city of Auburn has grown 22% since 2010. What are your priorities for further development in Auburn? Please address the Comprehensive Plan and Growth Management Act. Kate Baldwin, please.
Sure. So with the growth that we've had, Auburn is going to be responsible for bringing more jobs into the city as well as bringing more housing into the city. We have some potential opportunity with increasing our jobs with with a large business that we anticipate coming into our former GSA property. And so we think that's going to bring a number of good paying jobs into our community. So I think that's going to help us hit that target. Additionally, for the housing, we're looking at the old Sigali property and beginning our planning there, which is going to provide us a number of acres to put in additional housing going into the future. So that has, again, a lot of potential for us for being able to hit those growth management targets. I do currently serve on the Growth Management Planning Council in my role as a council member. So I do have a seat at the table to be able to advocate for meeting Auburn's needs. I do sometimes think that being able to have agreements with our developers gives us some additional flexibility, making sure that we don't necessarily give up our rights that we have as a legislative body to have good zoning and planning in place, but it does give us more flexibility to hit those targets, meet those thresholds, and work with private partners like we've heard that have sometimes had challenges in the past. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Lisa Sturgis. What are your priorities for further development in Auburn? Please address the Comprehensive Plan and Growth Management Act.
Yeah, similar to what Kate shared, is our comprehensive plan does have a pretty detailed plan for growing in housing. I believe it's something about 12,000. I can't remember off the top of my head, and 18,000 jobs, or it's either 18 or 19,000 jobs. We've have designated growth areas in which each of those, we've got a vision, we have goals, we have the city's departments working on getting in touch with the right partners to be able to develop in those areas. I recently met with the Master Builders Association and am committed to really looking at the rezoning that's needed. Also looking at expedited permitting. That seems to be a big need. And then the other thing for me personally is that I really want to help from a business development standpoint. That's where a lot of my strengths for my career come is we need really great restaurants in Auburn, and we need lots of options. And I continue to hear from community members, even when I have friends and family come from out of the state, I unfortunately don't really take them out in Auburn. I take them to Kent or to Renton or to Des Moines, or we'll drive to Enumclaw. We have so much opportunity to really fill our mixed use commercial spaces with a variety of restaurants, wine bars, all types of, and then different types of retail as well, so that people can live in Auburn and also shop in Auburn and eat in Auburn.
Thank you. Kobe Clark, please.
So I was fortunate, and at the end of my development career, I had the opportunity to work for Senator Jeff Wilson. And in the course of my of my work with him as a policy worker on policy staff, we helped put together Senate Bill 5749, which would allow local jurisdictions to create what are called development opportunity zones in distressed commercial areas, shopping malls, empty parking lots throughout the city. And that's really critically important, I think, because the city of Auburn, for example, just did their last comprehensive review years ago, 1 or 2 years ago. And the comprehensive review cycle is 10 years, and cities are only allowed one exception to that 10-year cycle. So Senate Bill 5749, if passed this next session, would allow us to more dynamically rezone areas of the city to accommodate increased development at a regularity faster than the Growth Management Act would typically allow. I'll also add that the city has an ordinance 3.60.036 that offers tax rebates, sales tax rebates to industrial centers. I think that's a misallocation of funds, and I think I'd rather see that tax break go to housing that's going to be developed for purchase. That's condos, townhomes, ADUs. Getting more people to own property in the city is a great way to get them engaged, and I think the sales tax code in the city should reflect that. And the infrastructure is already there. It's just being used for industrial uses instead of housing. I think we should change that.
Thank you. Adib Altalal.
Thank you. I think it's really important to take a step back and realize that growth is good and growth should make life easier, not harder moving forward. And that's what our comp plan does. It addresses the growth not only in the next 2 years, as the budget typically does, but in the next 6, traditionally. Now it has been moved to 10 years outlooks. And you see it a lot of times with 40 years forward. So knowing that housing and the jobs and the transportation is all keeping up to the needs of the city, the needs of the residents, and making sure when we have safer intersections, when we have better traffic flow, and we're able to manage it better, and that transit really flows, whether it's intercity transit or out of the city, and how we can improve it and add to it. All of that gets addressed in the comp plan. We need to make sure we are fixing our roads before they deteriorate, because that becomes a safety issue. That addresses policing eventually. So making sure those corridors are kept up with and our walkable neighborhoods are expanded, and we are increasing the cover of trees throughout the neighborhood to make it equitable for everybody, so we can spend a lot less time in traffic and more with our friends and family. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. We'll start with Lisa Sturgis. How do you propose to make housing and rents more affordable for low-income residents of Auburn? Lisa.
Thank you. Housing more affordable. I think that our Auburn team, what I'm learning so far in working with the community development team and learning more about what our plans are for increased housing, I think that we do have opportunities for, and we've shown success in applying for grants to be able to help folks with getting into affordable housing. We also have opportunities to approve I'm learning a ton about middle housing as an option, and improving the spaces so that we can build smaller units based on the zoning, so that they can be more affordable. It's a regional problem. We struggle with, King County rents are very high. I know that we as a city are trying to be at the table in regional conversations and statewide conversations to help address the challenges of affordable housing. And we're also building relationships actively with developers so that we can bring in smaller units in the growth areas that we have planned for different types of housings, whether it be small, whether it be, smaller ADA unit or ADU, what's it called? Anyways, you guys know the acronym. I can't remember it right now. Sorry, but residential, smaller type, apartment type housing, condominiums, and duplexes, etc.
Thank you. Kobe Clark, how do you propose to make housing and rents more affordable for low-income residents of Auburn?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are a lot of things the state can do to make that happen on a more micro-oriented scale. I think what the city can do within the programs that are already available to it would be to expand the multifamily tax exemption program, and we create affordable housing in market rate buildings. And I actually think that's critically important because, in the 70s and 80s, we used to have this idea of public housing or, the projects. And there was a lot of animosity built around those. People didn't like that it was going to happen in their backyard. There's a big not in my backyard reaction to that. And the beauty of the MFTE program is it creates affordable housing in these luxury apartments that you see going up. So it creates opportunities for folks in the lower income strata to live in nicer units than they would have otherwise been living in had it been, say, public housing or sort of the projects in years past. And it also it also allows that density to happen, that affordable density to happen in conjunction with market rate housing. So you're creating housing for everyone across the spectrum. I'll also add that development agreements that the city has been working on sometimes sound like a good idea because it offers zoning flexibility, but can also function as a barrier. I know recently the city rejected a development agreement for $750,000 townhomes. Rejecting any housing in the city is not a step to affordable housing because somebody could have moved into that $750,000 townhome and left behind a $500,000 house. Somebody could have moved from an apartment to that $500,000 house and left behind a cheaper apartment. So we really got to add housing at every level to help bring the cost down for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Adib Altalal, how would you propose to make housing and rents more affordable for low-income residents of Auburn?
Yeah, I would make it more affordable by first really addressing the real costs. Why are the prices going up? As an engineer, I see it every day how the infrastructure and permitting and even utility capacity ends up affecting homes, apartments, whatever zoning you have, and those prices really go up to build it, even just to maintain it. I would plan that all the systems really should be brought together from the start and have a starting point, and that's a great way to keep those costs predictable. We don't want to see those really large utility increases, whether it's sewer, stormwater, wastewater. We see it everywhere, and those really hurt renters a lot more than homeowners in a lot of cases. I do support the partnerships that really bring those affordable housing and make sure it's located in the right place. It's near services or transit centers that we can bring together. So the people that don't have a car are typically the ones that need those bus stops or train stops. We also need to make sure that housing affordability starts with that coordination and the commitment to it and following through so we can lead by example and be smarter on how we are protecting our residents, especially the most vulnerable ones. Thank you.
Thank you. Kate Baldwin.
Thank you. I think as we've heard from the other candidates here in the forum, is that there's no one silver bullet that's going to solve this issue. It's going to take a combination of approaches in many different areas from a policy standpoint, from a proactive development standpoint. And so a couple of things that I would add into that mix include looking at outlawing software that's sometimes used by residential properties called RealPage, which has been known to cause price fixing issues in other communities. Those cities that have put a stop to that have found that that helps decrease some of the rent that's out there. Additionally, the city is involved in an organization called the South King County Housing and Homeless Partnership, and I see that as another opportunity to have some city-led development to actually create units ourselves. And I think that there are different community groups that we could really, give a leg up. For example, in our homeless population for the region, we have people who are aging out of foster care. So being able to, perhaps build some apartment type complex near transit, which is always beneficial, that could be a good way to get those people off the streets easily and back into pathways to education, job training or apprenticeships and other opportunities. And additionally, I would look to do some federal advocacy work supporting legislation like we have from Adam Smith's HOPE Act, which is the Humans Over Private Equity for Homeownership. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Kobe Clark. Please discuss how you propose to address youth violence in Auburn. Kobe.
First of all, I think increasing the availability of youth programs is critically important to that. I think, the first line of defense is creating productive things for the youth to do in the community, whether that's the teen center that we have, programs for them, or proactive defense. I think in addition to that, we also need to increase the police presence throughout the city. I think we could do that by re-implementing our volunteer police program, Citizens on Patrol, which would allow volunteer citizens to help the police department and alleviate some of the administrative burden that the police department experiences and get the officers out on the street. And then in addition to that, I would also say that I'd like to see more programs where more educational opportunities for parents to come get involved with the city as well, because it's not just the government's domain to make sure that youth are engaged and active and happy. It also takes parental engagement. And I think creating family opportunities and events is a great opportunity to do that. I know we had kids event here at the city recently, and continuing to work through those events and build a family presence is a great way to help prevent violence in the future.
Thank you. Adib Altalal.
Yeah, I think youth violence is really important to address, and a lot of times, as mentioned, comes from those lack of opportunities. And we need to create that connection so they are more trusting of the programs that we create and more open to try something somewhere new, not necessarily something new, but in a different environment that they might not do if they don't trust the process. So during the time of coaching high schoolers when they're about to be adults, but they're still kids, I really got to witness a lot of the differences that one decision would make. Somebody would offer somebody else help, and they would really appreciate it because that was mentorship that they didn't get, even though their parents loved them, but they were working 2 or 3 jobs. So they weren't really there to hold their hand and mentor them throughout the process. And it's a lasting impression that teens have. So opening those spaces, those more safe spaces with partnership with the nonprofits that already exist and the local businesses that have programs, and making sure we're not duplicating some of those efforts, but rather filling in the gaps that still remain and realizing that they are the future of this city and they're here for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Kate Baldwin, please.
Sure. When it comes to addressing youth violence in the community, one of the things that comes to mind off the bat is that we have wonderful programs that already exist through King County. And so sometimes the role of being on council is connecting people to resources. And so one of the things that I had advocated for and will continue to advocate for is to put together a resource guide to assist parents for our students within the district, and working with the school district to be able to disseminate those resource packets out to households so they can get the help that they need, because violence doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's happening because of poverty or lack of opportunity. And so being able to make that connection, I think, would be a big step in the right direction. I think with the assets that we have in the city, like our community center, our postmark facility, we have the ability to offer extended hours that give those kids a place to go so they're not out getting into trouble. I also think job opportunities are a significant way to create hope for youth that maybe weren't considering going directly into college. One of the things I know is that in Washington State, if you're a youth worker, you may be paid less than minimum wage because you're considered a special class of employee. Our students and our youth have the same expenses when they pay their bills that anybody else does. So I'd also love to see what youth make when they're working be the same starting point that adults have. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa M. Sturgis, please.
All right. Yes. This one is near and dear to my heart. I absolutely believe we need to invest huge in prevention and education. And we have a very strong partnership with our Auburn School District. I think there's opportunity for us to streamline some of the services or connect the service providers that we have in the area to make more formal mentorship programs or after school opportunities to keep kids busy. And then also ensure that we're helping to educate the parents on what's available so that they can be part of the process with their kids. There's something, for lower income families, a lot of times barrier to entry in some of these after school activities is the application not being in another language or the fee for having to apply for football and the uniform and the bag, etc. And so I just feel that there's opportunities that we can partner with our school district with a partnership that's already strong, bring together the nonprofit agencies and the services that are already working really well out there together with the parents and the youth to educate them ahead of time of what's available and possible in order to prevent crime from happening. And then I believe in accountability. I think that when there's a youth that commits a crime, they need to be held accountable and they need to learn there's a consequence to the action. And then they also need to have someone by their side to help them figure out what the plan is next so that they don't repeat the offense.
Thank you. Next question, and we'll start with Adib Al-Talal. Please discuss how you would propose to address aggressive driving and speeding.
Absolutely. We see it a lot more on the highways than the cities, but I've heard a lot of complaints about uh, aggressive driving and speeding. The typical way is including the residents. If you're addressing it in a single corridor, addressing it at a street, then making sure those residents are involved. And that's having open houses or community meetings at either a school very close to them or maybe a community center that the neighbors go to and getting their feedback. It needs to be direct, it needs to be honest, and they need to be feeling safe when that happens. The other option is making sure, or the other part is making sure the subject matter experts that know how to deal with speeders in the sense of uh, making sure there's speed bumps or different signs, reducing the speed, narrowing the road, maybe allowing more street parking to make the road feel narrower. And that slows them down. So giving them those options, making sure they know them, and then relaying that same information to the enforcing agency, the police department in this case. So everybody, all arms of the city are on the same page. And then following through. When you promise to do something, you follow through. And if there's delays, you communicate that in a timely manner.
Thank you. Kate Baldwin, please.
Thank you. Aggressive driving and speeding is something that we've definitely been hearing about in recent years on council, particularly within our community conversations. In this area, one of the things that we have done in my time is we have been able to roll out speed cameras in our school zones, which has been incredibly successful at reducing those speeds that people are doing around schools and in those neighborhoods where kids are trying to walk to and from their homes. In addition to that, we've also had an increase in flock cameras, which allows our officers to identify and effectively use technology to follow the cars that are causing problems, which allows us to avoid having to do risky, real-time pursuits, but still get to those people who are causing issues. And I think there may actually be some opportunity to use technology like drones to identify, when calls are coming in or clustered around people who are reporting speeding, particularly in residential neighborhoods, to kind of go up in the air and see where are those, where are those people doing donuts and leaving the burnouts on the ground, and be able to use that to sort of isolate and understand where some of that activity is happening, so we can place officers there and help get them there at the right moment when those things are going to be going on. And then additionally work with our partners at Pacific Raceways to take the energy of people who love cars, love speeding, love going fast, and channel it into a place where they can do that safely. We actually have the opportunity for people to go have that fun there. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa M. Sturgis, please.
Yes, I've gotten to learn a lot about this recently and gotten to vote on these areas in several of our past council meetings. So, our part of our plan, part of our public works department is to constantly look at the traffic data in order to prioritize hotspots and find out, where we need to look at infrastructure changes, or where we have opportunities to, look at design, or is it a mix of, we need enforcement. We just approved 3 more of the traffic cameras, like Kate was speaking to, and because those have been working really well. And I believe that even as good human beings, if we don't know there's a consequence, sometimes we try to press, the boundary. And so I am a big supporter of adding traffic cameras as we have more budget. So I'll constantly support those. It does take an officer to review each of the tickets, and so we got to look at those resources. But I think with designing, making sure that we've got, the speed bumps where needed to calm traffic. Our team does a great job of making sure it's not just pushing from one street to the next. And so we need to have the infrastructure, the planning team reviewing of the data, and then an enforcement option with the traffic cameras and officers supporting with ticketing.
Thank you. Kobe Clark.
Yeah, so I live next to Pacific Raceway, and everyone who loves to race at Pacific Raceway also likes to race next to my house. I see the donuts. I catch everyone on camera. I send police reports in fairly frequently with license plate numbers, and nothing ever happens and nothing ever changes. I called and I asked the city if we could put speed bumps in front of my house, and they said, well, we did a study. We talked to the subject matter experts and we looked at the data, and we found that 85% of the people that drive next to your house follow the law. And so we just can't commit city resources to, it's not a hot zone for us. It's only a hot zone if it's a greater law breaking rate than that. And I'm like, well, 1 in 10 people are driving by my house too fast, and there's a school right across the street. Kids get off of work, and my son walks that street every day. And I'm sorry, 85% threshold is not good for me. 1 is too many. 1 in 10 is way too many. And I understand that the city needs to allocate resources in a way that benefits the undivided interest of the community. It has a utilitarian obligation to do the most good for the most people. But when I asked, look, can I spend my own money? Can I go through a permit process and put speed bumps in front of my house? My neighbors will come help me pay for it. It wouldn't be a problem. I'm a developer. I know how to do it. I've got the resources. They said, nope, we don't offer that. We can't do that for you. Sorry. And I think we really need to do a better job about creating permitting processes to allow private investment into public infrastructure. It would save the taxpayers money, and it would allow the local information problem to solve the issue. Local residents who see the problem would have the power to solve the problem in their neighborhoods without involving the government, and that's the way it should be fixed.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Kate Baldwin. What are your priorities to address the needs of residents of Auburn who are unhoused or at risk of becoming unhoused? Kate Baldwin, please.
Thank you. One of the things that we had done in my term that I think is a step in the right direction is we approved the purchase of the Auburn Resource Center as a building in our community that allows us to concentrate resources in an area where people can get to multiple services at the same time. That's where we have our food bank. That's where we have our overnight shelter. That's where we have our community courts, and where we have our staff that are part of our community response teams out and available to help people. But is it enough? And I think the answer to that is no. I think that we should be increasing the percent of our budget that goes into the services that we run through those programs and look to increase it. I think we have seen massive inflation in recent years that is putting undue pressure on any number of households. And I think we have to find ways to make sure that people don't feel like we're not there to help them, or like we're not there, or that we would let them struggle on their own. I think that there are unique opportunities we can look at, one of which I had heard during the appointment process from one of our candidates, which was looking at our utility billing to see who are the households that maybe have been missing payments or becoming late on payments. How can we proactively reach out to them to make sure that we're ahead of things being cut off? We don't want anyone to have their water or their heat, have that go away. And we're in a time where we can look at that data and try and get ahead of it. So thank you.
Thank you. Lisa Sturgis.
Yes, again, prevention in this area is super important. The people that I see in their cars in the Walmart parking lot are often families early in the morning that have their car so they can keep going to work, and getting their kids to school. So avoiding people falling into homelessness is something I'm super supportive of, whether that be rental assistance. We do deck the maximum allowable amount of our budget for Auburn based on our comp plan to this area. And so we do need to look and see what would that require in order to provide additional rental assistance based on knowing that number is going to continue to go up in the coming years. I'm huge on wraparound services, not necessarily adding more shelters, but adding housing that can be short-term housing to help folks in their transition to get back on their feet, as wrapped around with job skills and financial management skills, etc. So hopefully that they can sustain once they're back on their feet and get a job that they can live in, have a wage where they can afford a house in our community.
Thank you. Kobe Clark, please.
I think the two easy answers are build more housing and economic development, and that solves some percentage of the issues. But I think I said this at the last forum that we did. The number of reasons why any individual is experiencing homelessness are multifaceted. You have people that are maybe victims of sex trafficking. You have people that are maybe experiencing homelessness because they become addicted to drugs. I mean, the list of reasons that causes someone to become homeless is multivariable and very long. And I do not think that a centralized system can create a one-size-fits-all program to get people off the street. I think the city needs to do a better job of acting as a broker and connecting people experiencing homelessness with organizations, NGOs, nonprofits, and even private organizations who specialize in whatever particular issue that person is experiencing. There are private organizations and charities that specialize in helping people who are victims of sex trafficking. There are private organizations and charities that help people who have been kicked out of their home because they're not accepted as an LGBTQ plus member of the community. There are many outfits that specialize in a specific scope that the city can connect those people with and act as a bridge between the person experiencing homelessness and the people who are specialized in the scope that's going to get that person off the street. And I'd like to see the city do a better job of engaging those organizations and kind of curating them for folks on the street.
Thank you. Adib Altalal.
It's really important to realize we need to have compassion for the individuals that are out there, because it's really a lot easier to end up in the street than a lot of people think. Talking to several of the homeless people around, it was a lot of scary stories of somebody who was a veteran who signed up and took part of the war because they didn't have any other choice. And when they came back, they had done it against their parents' wishes, and their parents kicked them out. They had no job. Nobody wanted to employ them. They ended up being homeless. And that's really easy to end up there. As we talked earlier about renters and low income residents and how we can support them, that is how we prevent it, because a lot of the people are one payment away from being homeless, especially if we don't have the services. I think the city of Auburn has done a pretty good job the last few years of implementing a whole department that is getting bigger with individuals that are specifically tailored to reach out to the homeless people, making sure there are access to transitional housing, and if they need a mental health facility, or if they're ready to get back into the job and workforce, and here's the pathway. This is the way you go. If you need help, reach out to us, and we'll get you there together. And that's how we continue creating opportunities for our residents.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Lisa M. Sturgis. Rivers are really important to the identity of Auburn. Please discuss watershed issues such as flooding, ground and surface water pollution, and wetlands. Lisa M. Sturgis.
I have a lot to learn in this space. So just went and did a tour of the maintenance and operations, looking at our sewer treatment, our stormwater drains facility, and learning the importance of making sure that we're not putting anything down the drain because it's going straight into the rivers. We also have been, King County's been doing some recent work with tree canopies and to help with the temperature of the waterways. And but this is an area that I've got to learn. For me, it's pollution in the river that is really important, especially with our partnership or with our connection with the Muckleshoot tribe, and knowing that the rivers are sacred land for the salmon. To me, it's more of looking at the pollution. How do we help keep the rivers clean? How do we partner with the tribe to make sure that we're showing respect for the land? But that's an area that I have a lot to learn in.
Thank you. Kobe Clark.
Yeah, so in the 50s and 60s and 70s, we lived with a very different philosophy than we have now. And we have many parking lots and many buildings throughout the city that were built in this time frame that have stormwater systems that have absolutely no filtration. And every time one of those projects needs to be redeveloped, the sewer district, or excuse me, the stormwater district, requires that filtration systems be added to each of these different, what used to be parking lots. And that's actually functioning as a pretty major barrier to new development. And what's remarkable to me is that we're continuing to pollute the waterways with surface runoff and parking lots that, you got oil leaking out of cars, tires spewing particulate everywhere, and not do anything about it because the city's decided we can't make it good enough. So I think what we need to do actually is we need to focus on eliminating that surface parking, the open air parking, turning it into clean PVC roof or canopy cover, and allowing those developers to do that without having to necessarily do a complete comprehensive upgrade on their stormwater system. I think the our tank solutions and filtration solutions are incredibly expensive and cost prohibitive. And with clean roofs, you should be able to use an oil water separator rather than a comprehensive underground system to prevent water runoff. So we can get growth in the city and we can solve pollution without necessarily having to force everyone to upgrade their storm system.
Thank you. Adib Altalal.
Yeah, Auburn sits in a great location with our green and white rivers, and that watershed is very rich. There's a lot of water there, which is great for us to be independent as a city by having that water source. But it also comes with, as you mentioned, flooding. There's a lot of events where it doesn't happen often. You hear a lot of 100-year storm or 1,000-year storm, and people don't really know what that means. That does not mean it happens once every 100 years. It just means there's 1% chance it happens every single year. So that advocacy of educating the public and trying to be on the same level play field of, hey, we know you're dealing with barely being able to pay your bill, but if your house floods, you're not going to have a house to pay a bill for. Making sure you're communicating from a place of empathy where you know they're going through a lot, and you're using that partnership with the tribe, with the King County Flood District, and realizing that we've had recent events in, is that '08, the Hanson Dam, where we had flooding issues, and there were just sandbags everywhere. And those costs add up, millions of dollars that could be prevented by being proactive instead of waiting till it happens and then react when everything's a lot more expensive and the staff is not available. Thank you.
Thank you. Kate Baldwin, please.
Yes, thank you. So as noted, the rivers in Auburn are an incredible natural resource that we have available to us. And so I think it's on Auburn to be caretakers and protectors for that resource, not only today, but as we're doing planning for the city to make sure that what we put where shouldn't have any negative impacts on our waterways. Now, with that being said, I do think that we have an opportunity to treat the rivers as resources. And when we change our mindset from instead of those waterways being problematic, but an opportunity, we may find more partners that want to participate in the care and caretaking for that, whether that is looking to have economic benefits from bringing in tourism for fly fishing. We have, beautiful fish there. Our tree canopy in certain areas is gorgeous, but that also means making sure that that river is not getting polluted. We were having challenges previously with encampments along the river, which are uh, that do sometimes put the river at risk because of runoff that can happen there as well. So making sure that we're keeping the embankments clear is important, and also being prepared for climate that's coming down the road. As we have more extreme weather events, we are going to have to be mindful of our infrastructure and making sure that we have the capacity to prevent the surge and the overrun that could pollute those waterways. So it's going to be a lot of work, and we're going to need a lot of partners, but I think that if we keep it beautiful, that can bring more to Auburn. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. We'll start with Kobe Clark. What do you propose the Auburn Council should do to protect our immigrant neighbors' civil rights and to ensure that the Auburn police follow state law regarding ICE? Kobe Clark.
That's a fabulous question. And actually, I'd like to see our police department ensure that ICE follow the Constitution, not just state law, the Constitution. And right now, ICE is out there arresting people with masks on, which is a violation of their Sixth Amendment. You have a right to know who your accusers are. They're out there arresting people without a warrant, which is a violation of your of your Fourth Amendment rights. They're out there kicking doors in. They just flew 300 ICE agents into Chicago, dropped down from Black Hawk helicopters and raided an apartment building. And they had one warrant for one apartment, and they took that as license to tear the whole place apart. And it's completely unacceptable. And I would not allow that to happen in our city. I would ask that the police that we create a a ban on mass arrests. We ban warrantless arrests, and we are prepared to arrest any criminal that comes into our city and breaks the law, even if they happen to be identifying as a federal agent. And if our city needs support in that, I'd like to see us reestablish our volunteer police program. We have 100 officers. They're sending in 300 agents to raid an apartment building. We are very likely will need more people. And I would hope that the community could come together and support our police department in protecting each other and protecting our neighbors. So, thank you.
Adib Altalal.
Absolutely, I agree. It's a great question, and it shows that there's enough people that are caring about that. And it's tough because you're going up against a much stronger federal government that's, as mentioned, isn't really following the Constitution and making their own law. But to us in local government, the most important person is that resident, those residents that we are reporting to. We are working for them. So, how do we protect them? How do we support them? And if something goes wrong, how are we making ourselves available so they can ask questions? It again does not need to be a reaction. It needs to happen right away. And there needs to be resources. There's been a few, but there needs to be more resources that anybody in any language can reach, whether it's having the thing we have interpreters by phone right now, which is a great resource. I know the costs are going up, but we really need to start using some of the newer software, some of AI that has been really helpful in tailoring the resources that are available to the specific people asking. And it needs to happen as a group. This should not be just one person saying something. It needs to be all of us unanimously supporting the residents that are here for us.
Thank you. Kate Baldwin, please.
Thank you. There is so much that is happening that I don't think our country was prepared or ready to see happen as our rights are being eroded. And there are many things that we can do. I have been closely following what's been happening in Chicago and Portland, and I believe that the leadership that is in those cities are doing some steps that we can bring here in Auburn. One of which is, as noted, making sure that we have a ban on masked arrests and making sure that we have anyone who's in law enforcement is badged and they have their ID so that our residents know who they are. I think that we can do communications to our residents to give them access to resources and teams that can help them as they're navigating their immigration status. I think we can do work to protect our residents' data to make sure that they're not unfairly targeted in or in their workplaces. I'm sure many people have noted that a lot of raids are happening when people are working, when they are going to school. And I think that there are opportunities, as I've seen in Chicago, where they are putting bans on ICE in places like schools and city property. So I do think that there are legal routes that we can pursue to protect our residents at a time when they need it. About 1 out of every 5 residents in Auburn was born in another country. And so when we talk about protecting these people, it's protecting our neighbors, our coworkers, our friends, in many cases, our family. And we have to do right by them. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa M. Sturgis, please.
Yes, I echo. Same. Very passionate about making sure that we do not have masked arrest, and that the whoever the officer is, whether it's federal or local, is fully identifiable with their name badge and what department they're with. I do know that I've heard this several times. We're not a sanctuary city. Well, we are a sanctuary state, and our city, our police department, our chief of police has reached out to the FBI and to the federal agencies to ICE to say we need to be notified when you are coming into our city limits. Now, are they doing that? No, not all the time. And so, what I believe we need to do is we need to, in tandem, the police department with our human services team, go into some of our more vulnerable neighborhoods where we do know that we have a high population of undocumented citizens, and create some trust and safety. We don't want them not calling 911 because they're scared of police. We want them to feel confident calling the police officer to say, who is this outside? And for us to be able to give that sense of calm. The only way they're going to do that is when our police are showing up in those neighborhoods and creating that relationship with them like they are now. And we need to leverage the work that they've laid the ground with for the last 2 years.
Thank you. Next question, and we'll start with Adib Altalal. According to the U.S. Census, about 1/3 of Auburn's residents speak a language other than English at home, and almost 1/4 are foreign-born. What is your proposal to ensure Auburn city services and council activities are accessible to those for whom English is not a first language? And I will point out that I tried to use the city website option and use the language option at the bottom. I could not get it to work. So Adib Altalal.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I've seen that issue happen really across the region as an immigrant myself, as somebody that is not a native English speaker. I do run into those issues, and I see it in a lot of places where sometimes it feels like it's just to put a front and it's not truly what is happening. I really think we've done it at Tequila. We played around with even AI using it. And there's a line. You always need a native speaker to be able to proofread what you've done, whether it's a really good software or not, doesn't matter what they're selling you. It's important. So realizing and knowing what you have, knowing what demographic, what other language. Obviously, we have a lot of Spanish speakers, but there's a lot of others. There's Vietnamese being spoken, and those languages need to be addressed. There's a lot of threshold that gets put on the native speaker or the speakers of other languages, where you don't need to represent them if there's less than 10% or if there's less than 5%. They don't count as their own category. They get lumped into that others category, which a lot of times is defeating to those individuals because they don't get represented. And it seems like there's not enough of them to get represented. So it's important. I've worked a lot on that language access subcommittee, and we've done a lot of the permitting in other languages as well.
Thank you. Kate Baldwin, what is your proposal to ensure city services and council activities are accessible for those for whom English is not their first language?
Thank you. This is an area where I think we have been behind the ball as a city in making sure that we're providing enough materials in different languages. But as with anything, you have to be aware of the problem to begin to solve it. And as we've heard, I think that technology creates a unique opportunity for us to make those improvements hopefully faster. And that'll be a combination likely of utilizing AI where we can to do a first pass draft on materials and then working with and budgeting to be able to send those out to agencies that do specialize in government translations. So it will take investment to make sure that we can do that. I do think that there's an opportunity to do digital versioning, so that way you can open, a brochure or, our magazine and be able to have it in your native language. And I do know that we're beginning to make inroads. As someone who had served on our Racial Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee, we're trying to find ways to increase accessibility not only for languages, but in all areas of life. And so I know with our first round of community conversations, on some of our evenings, we did have people at tables with some of our more common languages to help with that translation and increase participation from our different stakeholder groups within the community. So I do think that we can get more improvements, and it's going to be hard work, but it's not work that I'm scared of, and it is work that I would support and invest in. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa Ann Sturgis, please.
Yeah, agreed. I think that we do need to, we have the electronic tool on the website, which you just said didn't work for you. So that's obviously an issue. All of the city employees have an app on their phone that we can use. I have used it a couple times with community members, and it did work really well for in the moment translation services. But we need to have there is technology out there that we should be able to have that works. And so, and I know we're committed to it. We have over 80 different languages in our community, and it's a part of, our value system is wanting to make sure that we're accessible as a city. And so one thing that Dr. Spicciati just shared in an update from our Auburn School District is they've launched a language immersion program at Pioneer Elementary School. I would love to see more of those happening in our schools. And then as far as with the city services, make sure that we are decking the budget to ensure that we have native speakers available when we need translation services. One thing too that's worked in the past that I don't know if we do, but I did write it down as a note to find out is finding out the native language of all of our employees, and then being able to have a database that during their work schedule, they would be available for us to reach out to translate in the moment if needed. So that's something that I'm going to look into and follow up on.
Thank you. Kobe Clark, please.
I agree with everyone. I think we need to focus on technological integration, but that's obviously insufficient because technology is not perfect. And so you absolutely need a set of human eyes to go along with that technology. Technology helps make people more productive. It doesn't replace people. And beyond that, I think everything that needs to be said has been said. So I will yield my time on this question.
Thank you. Last question, and we'll start with Kate Baldwin. What do you propose to do about drug use and drug overdoses in Auburn? Kate Baldwin, please.
Sure. So in the space of drug use and overdoses, I believe our law enforcement officers go through regular training on how to use and administer Narcan. And that's something as a practice that I would hope that we are planning and continuing to provide for our officers as we have turnover within our police department for our staff. Additionally, we have partnerships with organizations like We Care, and I had been out recently in our community and had lunch at one of our picnic tables where I was speaking with two people who were homeless and experiencing addiction. And they said that they were having a really good experience working with We Care, and that they were going there regularly and felt like what they needed was being provided. Ultimately, when it comes to addiction, that is something that I would consider to be as much of a physical disability as perhaps mental. It's a combination that have to be addressed to be able to make sure that people are getting support. And so we don't provide those direct medical services, but we do support our partners here in the community that provide that. And we can make those resources available and help do that bridge building to connect those people in need with the groups that are here doing that awesome work on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa M. Sturgis, please.
Yeah, I've been on several ride-alongs with our police officers, and they are very well trained in handling any issues with drug overdoses and identifying proactively open air drug use. I was really impressed with what I saw there. There is opportunity for us. We have Sound Behavioral Health located in Auburn that serves all of South King County, but they have 7 vans available for emergency crisis response when it comes to mental health or drug addiction. And so we're in the midst of setting up a partnership between Auburn PD and them to get to know what services they have. So it could be a possibility of diversion versus arrest if needed. Also, King County was approved for 5 emergency crisis response facilities with, I think the one open in Kirkland has 80 beds. That's the only one that's been built so far, and there's 4 remaining. And so I'm in the midst of researching and finding out what work we've done or what work we need to do in order to be potentially one of the additional 4 locations to have one of those recovery crisis facilities, medical facilities in Auburn for treatment. We need treatment beds. We need them to have caring providers that help them detox. And then we need to move them into a program that will help them rehabilitate with mental health treatment and life skills. And that's going to take a wraparound process.
Thank you. Kobe Clark, please.
I had the privilege of going on a ride along with the police department earlier this week, I think on Monday. And during the ride along, they arrested a gentleman who was shooting up behind the wheel. They found syringes and they found what they thought to be crack pipe. And first of all, I want to say thank you to our officers because they really respected this man's rights. It was one of the most professional arrests I've ever seen in my life. And they were very courteous. They even pulled his vehicle off to the side of the road so it wouldn't get impounded. And it was it made me proud to be an Auburn resident to see the way he was treated. But one thing during the arrest, they read him his rights. They asked him if they could search the vehicle. He said no, they respected that. They followed the processes that they were directed to follow. And then they also went above and beyond the call of duty. But what they didn't ask is they didn't ask, do you want help? There's a rehabilitation center. There's several rehabilitation centers in the city of Auburn. Would you like one of their cards? Would you like a card? Do you have insurance? They'll probably accept your insurance if you have insurance. I think simply asking the question, do you want help, would likely get some percentage of the drug users off the street and stop them from reoffending. And it's an easy, compassionate way that the city can help respond to this problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Adib Altala.
Thank you. It seems to be a pretty common theme with the ride-alongs, and I did experience that about a couple of weeks ago with my ride-along, where they had somebody that wasn't in the vehicle, but it was a suicidal call. They were near a bridge, and the cruiser I was in made it over, and the training really seemed to show, even though everybody could learn more and get more training, they were very respectful. They did try and ask the person what they needed, what could have been done. Do they have a relative that lives nearby that they could go to or anywhere else? They ended up settling on having them go to a medical facility nearby because of, even though the drug was involved, but the suicidal part was more needed. So they had AMR show up and transport them there. But the aftermath of reporting, they really said that they encounter this a lot. This is something that happens a lot. Not everything is as eventful when there's drug involved, but it's important to really build on not letting people feel anxious and not letting them realize this is their last resort, making sure we advocate for all the opportunities that they do have and knowing that they're not alone. Thank you.
Thank you. Now it's time for closing statements. Each candidate has up to 1 minute for their closing statement. We'll change the order of the opening statement. So we'll start with Lisa M. Sturgis. Your 1 minute closing statement, please.
Sure thing. I chose to apply for council because I believe in putting my money where my mouth is. I've told my daughter, she's been frustrated with the overwhelm of what's happening at the national level, and really tried to discipline us and our household by you don't make change by looking at the national problems. You start by being a positive contributor in your circle, in your family, your neighborhood, your city, your state, and you work out through your sphere of influence. And so that's why I'm here. I've served my entire career being a servant leader and helping others. Had a few people along my path believe in me and help me get to where I'm at today. And so I believe it's my life's purpose to show up every single day and try to serve the people of Auburn. I don't have a political agenda. I'm a homeowner here in Auburn, and I want the city I live in to be the best it can be. And so I'm stepping up to serve and to listen and learn and inspire civic engagement. And
Thank,
excited to be a
thank
part of
you.
this.
Kobe Clark, please.
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate that my campaign is to create, protect, and streamline. I'd like to create housing. I'd like to protect civil rights and uphold the rule of law. And I'd like to streamline economic development. Um, I think I want to speak a little bit to some of the responses I got from from some of my other candidates here. You know, in particular in relationship to civil rights and ICE. ICE has 20,000 agents and the city has 100,000 people. Okay. Totalitarian states do not exist because every single person has a gun to their head. Totalitarian states exist because people decided to go along with it. And I'm going to protect our Constitution, and I'm not going to go along with it. And I hope the community is behind me on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Adib Altalal.
So serving on council is about those connections. It's really about understanding how the infrastructure, the safety, and the affordability issues all come together, and those being solved really shape our daily life. I've spent most of my career working on those exact systems, and I realize how they need a lot of work to be better for the people. So through building trust and collaboration, whether it's with the crews in the fields or in different committee meetings or even just coaching on the sideline, trying to get those young athletes to believe in themselves, I try and bring that same energy to the public service. I think Auburn is a city that is really full of potential, and through a lot of that thoughtful planning and making sure there's transparency and partnerships with the community, we can make it safer, more affordable, more welcoming. And I would be honored to earn your vote for City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Kate Baldwin, please.
Thank you. In my time on council, I have worked incredibly hard and made every effort to continue to learn to serve this community in the best way that I can with the most transparency, integrity, and dedication that I can bring to this position. Going forward, I do have some objectives or some goals, which is that I want to make sure that we continue to invest in working families and creating a strong and fair economy so that way people who grow up in Auburn can continue to live in Auburn, and that people who live here don't get pushed out. I want it to be an affordable, livable community. I want to continue to fight for public safety and protecting the community in all ways that they need, whether that is helping them through mental health crisis or addiction, and just making sure we send the right responders to each situation. And ultimately, I want to have a resilient city where everyone can thrive, making sure it's easy to get around, making sure that there is a safe, green future ahead, and that we provide services that match the dynamic and changing needs that our community has. I'd love your vote this November. Thank you.
Thank you. In ballot order, the candidates for Auburn Council are position 2, Adib Altalal and Kate Baldwin. For position 6, Lisa M. Sturgis and Kobe Clark. Your ballot will be mailed out October 17th. Be sure to vote early and no later than November 4th. I'd like to thank the candidates who participated, the timekeeper Terry Baker, and the Tacoma-Pierce County League of Women Voters. You can see other League of Women Voter candidate forums at lwvtpc.org and read your voters pamphlet, read the candidates' websites, and don't forget to vote before November 4th. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.